So today we're here to talk about the top trends of 2023. What does that mean for consumers? We're also going to talk about redefining value and what value means for consumers and for us as developers. I'm here with my colleague, Bernd, who's going to introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Dr. Bernd Koehler and I'm the Global VP of R&D at Edlong.
And my name is Anne Marie Butler. I'm the Global Director of Innovation and Strategy for Edlong. And today we'll run through a top-level overview of the top trends, and our colleagues in our webinar in March will take you through a more in-depth review of what that looks like for consumers, particularly in terms of value. So Bernd, tell me what you think unlocking plant-based really means.
Well, first of all, I think we need to talk about what's the underlying reason why is plant-based so important. And when you look at the consumer data, sustainability and a healthier lifestyle continue to be important concerns for consumers. In fact, from research that McKinsey & Company did, 64% of consumers in the US and 50% of consumers globally have changed their lifestyle in favor of more environmental friendliness and healthier lifestyles in the last 2 years. So this is certainly a big trend. So also personally, I have 2 kids, 11 and 13 years old, and they're starting to ask really big questions about, what we as a family are doing to help the planet. So as a result of this, we are making more conscious decisions, about our own lifestyles. So we are trying to reduce energy consumption. We are looking at what we're eating, what the carbon footprint is. And I feel like looking at the data, we're not the only ones doing that. So there is ample evidence out there that consumers are more and more moving into that direction.
I think those are some of the key drivers definitely in the plant-based space. I see it in Europe as well. I'm based in our Ireland office, and there, when you go into a supermarket, maybe 3-4 years ago, it would have been a very different journey through the aisles because plant-based or alternatives were a very small sector, whereas now they're complete aisles dedicated to themselves. And I think that reflects consumers changing attitudes, which is they want something that makes them feel like they are doing something to support the planet, but also really helping their own nutrition, their own lifestyle, and supporting that journey towards flexitarianism. I really feel that within plant-based, it's not necessarily an either or. I think the biggest chunk of the market is like you and your family, like me, that are trying to make better choices and have more variety. It doesn't have to be a replacement of milk or changing to all non-dairy or changing to all meat alternatives. I think there is room for both. And I think part of that unlocking plant-based piece is the innovation that we're going to see coming out of it and how developers are really addressing plant-based and how we can do things that are more outside the box. It doesn't have to be about making everything look like a burger or creating the next milk. It can be just a whole new food group of something interesting to offer consumers more choice and help facilitate, to your point, better changes for the environment and the planet.
Yeah, and the good news is that the industry is responding. So you see more and more plant-based food offerings on the market, and consumers are reacting to this. And they're changing their lifestyles. McKinsey & Company reported that about 25% of consumers ate more plant-based products during the COVID pandemic. 15% reported that they expect to start consuming plant-based products in 2023, joining the already 33% who already call themselves consumers of plant-based products.
Yeah. I think that's really reflected in the kind of product launches. Like even in the last 12 months within the plant-based space, Europe had just under 4,000 new product launches that had a plant-based claim. The US came in at around just over 3,000. And we have offices in Mexico as well. And the new product launches, Mexico's really on the cusp of the plant-based movement now. They would have only had 350, 360 new product launches in the last 12 months. But it's showing that there is that need for innovation within plant-based. And I really think as food developers, this industry is very much stepping up to meet that trend for consumers.
Absolutely. And this is really a call to action for the industry, for us as food developers. So we need to look at the consumers, what the consumers' drivers of liking are, what do they want to see in the food that they're consuming, what are they currently missing, in looking at the occasions where consumers currently consume the food, are they disappointed with the offerings that they have today? And looking at the consumer data and feedback, one thing that really, stands out is taste is king. So everybody loves, tasteful products. Then, loves to have the right texture of the food. Then of course, nutritional attributes need to be met. Convenience is an important factor depending on where the food is being consumed. If it's part of a busy lifestyle, so you need to maybe have a handheld option available at a specific occasion, and of course at the right price point.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point that leads us naturally into what the next trend that we saw in the Innova Market Insights data, which is that affordable nutrition is really something that's a top priority for consumers in 2023. What do you think that looks like for us in terms of manufacturing, but also then for the consumer at a purchasing level?
Absolutely. So I think in the face of today's uncertainties, inflationary economies, having access to affordable food becomes more and more important for many, many consumers, and all around the world. So in 2015, the United Nations issued 17 Sustainable Development Goals, including zero hunger and good health and well-being. So there's a broad consensus globally that access to nutritious and healthy food, is a human right. Yet 840 million people regularly go to bed hungry, and 3 billion people cannot afford healthy and nutritious diet. The good news is that large food companies are responding to this and have made access to affordable nutrition a priority. Affordable nutrition is increasingly important for consumers globally. According to Ipsos, about 67% of consumers in 28 countries, so about 2/3, feel the economy in their country is bad and inflation is their top worry. So, and in line with this perception, based on Innova Market Insights, 70% of consumers globally have identified the cost of food as a key concern.
I think that's a huge figure and a really interesting one. And I feel like that's reflected in the kind of projects we work on here in Edlong, even because more and more ingredient suppliers are coming to us with nutrition-focused ingredients as opposed to just ideas. It really is a focus on proteins and healthier fats and how do we incorporate those into finished goods. And I think that really circles back to that affordable nutrition piece. I think it's not just about the ingredient. I feel like in some of the consortiums and the work that we're doing, we see from a lot of suppliers, they're going back to the fields. So right back to the grain, for example, we see a lot in pea protein. It's no longer just about having a pea protein that's clean. It's about how do we make it the most nutritious? How do we select the right kind of breed of pea to get the best out of the pea, the most nutritious protein, the best PDCAS, for example. So PDCAS being the figure that rates it as close to dairy in terms of protein quality. And we see that there's a focus on that because we're really trying to give the best to consumers. And that's very much apparent in the types of projects we see, the types of ingredients being brought to us. So I feel like within the industry, there is a consensus that affordable nutrition is there. We often get projects where our customers are trying to produce products that have cost parity for the consumer. And I think as our head of R&D, you're seeing an awful lot in that space.
Yeah, I like the approach that you're taking, Anne Marie, like to look at things holistically, just as, looking at, flavor as a fix of certain product issues or taste issues, but really look at, the raw material, design the product in a way that delivers the best possible eating experience to the consumer. This is really a key point, and that's a call to action for us as product developers, to work together, customers, us as a flavor supplier, to make sure we tackle those important issues and make nutritious food affordable and also tasteful.
Yeah. And I do think that is where the market is going. Like, you couldn't have said it better. Collaboration within the space is really what's going to drive affordable nutrition. And I think that leads us to the top trend, which we can already see is underpinning both plant-based, it's underpinning affordable nutrition. And it is that value-driven piece, or that redefining value. And I think if you were to explain today, what do you see as redefining value?
Well, when I think about redefining value, it's really about the whole value proposition that consumers are getting, for the dollars that they put on the table, to procure their food. No matter where they buy it, it could be retail products, food that they prepare at home. What is it, that, they get in return? Is it, a specific taste? Is it specific, convenience factor? Is it like specific nutritional properties that the food has that consumers are looking for and are also willing to pay a little extra just to have that convenience factor? So it's not only about affordability, and it's not only about, the cheapest offering. It's really about what value you're getting, what kind of quality you're getting in return for the money that you put on the table.
And I think I'd very much agree with that. Like even myself, as I go to the supermarket and shop, it isn't just about picking the cheapest item, as you said. It is about really looking, what's the nutrition like? What's the shelf life like on this? Now, I know that's not a very consumer-based term, it's a very much industry term, but I still look and go, am I going to have to dump this in a week? Or can I use it for the next 2 weeks when I've opened it? That's a big part of value. And I see that even in the work that we do with our suppliers, and the kind of projects we look at. It's about giving the best value to a consumer. So making sure that the product functions in the way it needs to. It gives the best all-round experience to the customer in terms of taste and texture, usability, shelf life, packaging. All these things become a focus, I think, within the value picture that we're seeing. I don't know, would you agree on that?
Absolutely. And I think we're going to see important trends in this year where consumers are increasingly looking at, the value proposition. We might see a shift into more private labels unless, consumers have really a strong emotional connection to the brand that they are familiar with. I think they would, having really a hard look at, okay, what do I get, on the private label, front, for what I'm looking for to meet my emotional functional need for the food that I'm procuring. So I think we're going to see this. I think, consumers are increasingly conscious about how much they're buying, so where they're buying. So might see a rise in discounters. So it's going to be interesting. But again, there is certainly a need for innovation in that space as well. Innovation in a way that we make the affordable, high-value food that is good for your health, good for the planet, the preferred choice for consumers.
Yeah, I think innovation is a really key point that you're making there. And I see it even if you look at some of the products that have been launched recently. Innovation doesn't have to be this far-reaching, here's a new completely product. It is instead making things more suitable for the consumer. So innovation in terms of packaging, we've seen an awful lot of new products reformulated into easier to use packaging that recycles. We're seeing innovation in terms of taste, or even the big one that we see a lot in now is call out some texture or how to use a product. So maybe a cheese product that they put melty on the front so that consumers know this will give you value if you want to put it into your lasagna or into your mac and cheese or whatever it is. And I think that it really is a whole picture of what value looks like to a consumer. And the key is that value may vary by product category or by region. And we've really seen that in the types of projects we work on.
Absolutely. So value is not only about price, it's really about the entire value proposition. What are the consumers looking for in a specific occasion? Now, what are their emotional functional needs, and how is this food that they're procuring meeting those needs, delivering against those needs? Really having a hard look at these different eating occasions, what's currently available, looking at consumers' experiences, what they're telling us. Are they disappointed with current offerings? Is this an opportunity for food companies, to grow, to do better, and to wow consumers in those specific occasions?
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think I understand that developers may be struggling with how to approach this. And I know that our webinar coming up in March is really going to dig into the meat of this. And today we were only having a very top level look on the trends, but I think we've given a nice little opener to where our colleagues are going to dig into it with some of our supplier partners to really investigate how you can give the best value to your customer and really offer a whole holistic approach to development. So thank you very much, Bernd. It was lovely talking to you. And if you're interested in joining our webinar, please sign up today. It'll really give you an overview of the value trend.